Britney told the jury she didn't know Robin's name at the time, but she remembered her face because Robin was the one who ushered her into a VIP lounge with Diddy right before everything went dark. I trusted them, Britney said. I didn't think I was in danger, but I wasn't protected that night. I was set up. She said after one glass of champagne, she began to feel, not drunk, just disconnected. Her vision blurred. Her thoughts slowed. Her balance went. She remembered hearing someone say, "She's done," and then laughter. That was it. When she woke the next morning, she said she felt like something had been done to her, but everyone around her insisted she was fine. No one listened to me. They said I was being dramatic, but I knew something was wrong. I still know. Britney told the jury that looking back, she believes this was part of a larger plan, a humiliation ritual meant to break her down and pave the way for what came next. And Diddy? He was at the center of it. When Britney got to the MTV Video Music Awards that Sunday, she said she still wasn't fully recovered from what happened the night before. I was dizzy, unsteady. I wasn't myself. She testified that her team insisted the show had to go on, that millions were watching, and she needed to smile, dance, and pretend nothing was wrong. But I wasn't okay, and they knew it. She recalled being rushed into makeup and wardrobe, where everything went wrong. The stylist handed her a costume she didn't recognize, the glittery bra, black shorts outfit that would later be mocked across tabloids. She'd requested a different costume. They gave her that instead. I remember saying, "This doesn't fit." And someone said, "Just wear it. You're fine." She was pushed on stage. The music started. The lights hit. And Britney? She stood there, frozen. I was trying to dance, trying to keep up. But I was so out of it, I could barely move. The performance, supposed to be her comeback, turned into a train wreck. But Britney told the jury that it wasn't just a bad night. It was engineered. They made sure I failed. And did he? He watched from the crowd, smiling. She said she remembered seeing him sitting there, looking calm, unbothered, not surprised at all. I remember that look. It wasn't confusion, it was satisfaction. And then it started. The media frenzy, the headlines, the breakdown narrative, the calls for rehab, the custody battles, the conservatorship. They humiliated me on purpose, broke me in front of the world, and then used that to lock me away. She ended this part of her testimony by looking directly at Diddy. "You started this, and now I'm ending it." Britney's voice trembled but remained clear. As she transitioned into the next part of her testimony, she stopped speaking as a performer and started speaking like a survivor. "I didn't fall apart," she said. "They took me apart, piece by piece." The courtroom leaned in as she named names. Lou Taylor, Robin Greenhill, TriStar Entertainment. Words that had haunted Britney's story for years, now finally said under oath. And the moment she said them, Diddy's lawyers stiffened. They knew what was coming. Britney recounted how, after the 2007 MTV Video Music Awards, her phone began blowing up. Not with sympathy, not with support, but with demands. Her father, Jamie, a man named Larry, and a woman she barely knew at the time, Lou Taylor. They said I was spiraling, that I needed structure. They were already talking about taking control of my estate, and it was only weeks after that night. She testified that Lou Taylor's voice was always calm, too calm. She didn't sound like someone who wanted to help. She sounded like someone who'd been waiting. Then came the appointments, the psychiatric evaluations, the rehab facilities she didn't remember agreeing to. And through it all, Lou and Robin were always hovering. According to Britney, these weren't wellness efforts, they were rehearsals. A dry run for something far more sinister. "They were setting up the conservatorship before I even knew it was a word," she said. And then came a moment that turned the courtroom cold. I found out Lou Taylor had once worked with Sean Combs. They came up through the same label, Uptown Records. That's how they knew each other. That's how they moved. She pulled out a photo, a framed screenshot from the Hollywood Reporter article that confirmed their professional connection. I didn't just end up with the same team that destroyed my freedom. I was handed to them. Britney stated under oath that she believed Diddy and Lou Taylor had already spoken in the days following the MTV Video Music Awards, that her breakdown was the justification the team needed to push the conservatorship into motion. They said I was too emotional, but they were the ones pulling the strings behind every one of those emotions. And Robin Greenhill, Britney, said she was Lou's shadow, the one who did the dirty work, including, she testified, approving wire transfers from Diddy's accounts to women in his entertainment network. They called her an accountant. I call her a handler. As Britney continues, she turned her attention to the facilities, the so-called treatment centers that she claimed were part of the machinery Lou Taylor and her father used to break her down. They said I needed help, but all they did was drug me until I couldn't speak. She described being forced into a facility in the Caribbean, then shipped to Malibu, then sent home with strict medication regimens she didn't consent to. I wasn't drinking, I wasn't partying, I was surviving, and they treated me like a criminal. Britney testified that during this time, she had little control over her money, her medication, or her movement, and the only consistent visitors she saw, representatives from TriStar and attorneys hired by her father, all orchestrated under Lou Taylor's network. Then came the most disturbing revelation. Britney said that one of the medications she was placed on without explanation caused severe memory loss. I couldn't remember what day it was. I'd stare at the walls for hours, and when I asked why they were doing this to me, they told me I signed off on it. But she hadn't. She told the jury that one day she was handed a form with TriStar's logo and a blank signature line. They said it was for my safety. I remember shaking. I was so scared. I didn't want to lose my kids. She signed. The next day, the conservatorship began. Britney paused, fighting back tears. I wasn't protected. I was imprisoned. She alleged that Lou Taylor funneled hundreds of thousands of dollars from her estate into accounts controlled by TriStar, and that Diddy's financial advisor was CC'd on multiple communications. Ask yourself why my money was connected to the man who gave me that drink. She explained that each time she tried to push back by missing a dose, by refusing a photo shoot, or by asking to go outside, she was punished. More meds, more restrictions. And Diddy? She said he was kept updated. He was watching the show he started from a distance, and he didn't lift a finger to stop it. Britney's voice grew more quiet, but every word struck like thunder. I didn't just lose control of my life, she said. I lost control of my image, my body, my privacy. Britney testified that Robin Greenhill and Lou Taylor had total access to her phone, her home, and her schedule. But it wasn't just oversight, it was surveillance. They had cameras in every room, even in my bedroom. I wasn't allowed to shut the door. She said that messages between her and her children were monitored, even her Google searches. If I looked up my own name too many times, they'd lock the iPad. She revealed that black box security, hired by her father, was instructed to work directly with TriStar, and that Robin Greenhill created mirrored iCloud accounts to track everything she did. She said she learned this from former employee Alex Vlasov, who risked his own safety to tell the truth. Then came a chilling line. They didn't just track me, they recorded me. The courtroom froze. I asked to see the tapes. They said they were for safety. But I know what they were doing. They were collecting proof of my weakness, so they could keep me quiet. She claimed one of the tapes included footage from the VMA's rehearsal where she broke down and said, I can't do this. Something's wrong with me. That footage, she says, was shown to her own legal team as evidence she was unstable. And that night, the party with Diddy, I asked if there was security footage. I was told it didn't exist. But now, I believe it does. I believe it was saved. Maybe even used. She looked straight at Diddy. You said you were trying to help, but I was the one who got locked in a room. I was the one who lost 14 years of my life. Then she turned to the jury. I know what people think, that I was out of control, that I needed help. But that's because they only saw what they were shown. They saw the clips, the meltdowns, the memes. But none of that was me. That was what they did to me. And with that, Britney closed the binder in front of her. But it was clear. She was just getting started. Britney's tone changed as she stepped into the darkest chapter of her story. The courtroom lights seemed dimmer as she described the night she believes they took everything. Her freedom, her reputation, her voice. And it all tied back to that moment at Pure Nightclub. "You know what's worse than losing your mind?" she said. "Being told you did, when you know someone else caused it." Britney described waking up the morning of September 9th, 2007, just hours before the VMAs, with her entire body trembling. Her coordination was off, her muscles weak, her memory fragmented. "I wasn't hungover," she told the court. "I was tampered with." She testified that after the performance, where she was mocked relentlessly by the press, she was rushed back to her hotel. That's when Lou Taylor called her directly for the first time. "You need structure," Britney remembered her saying. "We can help you." Lou then allegedly offered to arrange treatment and media damage control, but there were strings attached. Within a week, Britney said her legal documents began changing. Power of attorney started shifting, and suddenly, people she never hired were managing her medical and financial decisions. Then came a crucial revelation. Britney claimed that she later learned Diddy had called Lou Taylor directly after the MTV Video Music Awards. He told her, "I was too far gone." He said the public saw what they needed to see. Britney paused, swallowing hard. That's how fast it happened. One night, one performance. And suddenly, I didn't own my life anymore. She then testified that the same night, someone had tried to contact her. Someone from the venue staff who allegedly witnessed her collapse backstage and tried to report it. But they never got through. I was told later that Diddy had connections with every major media outlet that covered the MTV Video Music Awards that year. That's why the narrative shifted so fast. From "she had a bad night" to "she's out of control." That narrative justified everything they did next. Her voice rose slightly. "I didn't break down. I was taken down." The room remained still, stunned. Jurors blinked slowly, some visibly emotional. Britney leaned forward, her hands steady for the first time. And Diddy? He wasn't just a guest at the MTV Video Music Awards. He was the architect. The courtroom sat frozen as Britney revealed a piece of evidence no one expected. "I was told for years that no video existed of that night," she began. "But they lied, and I saw it." She testified that during her final months under the conservatorship, a former TriStar employee contacted her anonymously. They claimed to have seen raw, uncut security footage from the night of September 8th, 2007, the night she attended Diddy's party at Pure Nightclub. The footage, according to the source, was never released, never mentioned in any investigation, and never logged by hotel security. Because it didn't go through the hotel security, Britney said, it went straight to Diddy. She testified that in the footage, she could be seen dancing briefly, drinking from a flute handed to her by a man in a gray suit. She remembers that man. She didn't know his name at the time, but years later, she identified him in a photo as one of Diddy's close assistants. In the video, Britney said she begins to stumble, then sits down, visibly disoriented. A group of men surrounds her. A few minutes later, she is led out of the frame. It cuts off before anything else happens. "But it's enough," Britney told the jury. "It shows I wasn't in control. It shows I didn't walk out of that club on my own." She described how this footage was allegedly shown to Robin Greenhill and others inside TriStar's office, not to help her, but to file it away as insurance, leverage, proof that Britney Spears was unfit. "They didn't destroy that footage," she said. "They stored it, like a trophy." Britney then claimed the anonymous whistleblower told her that TriStar and its affiliates had dozens of similar tapes, not just of her, but of other artists. They filmed girls at parties, at hotels, in bathrooms, Britney said, trembling, and Diddy had access to all of it. "He didn't just film me, he kept me." She paused, then looked directly at the jury. "Do you understand now why I couldn't get out? Why every time I tried to speak, they had something to hang over me? That performance at the VMAs? It wasn't a meltdown, it was evidence. Evidence that they used to lock me away. She turned toward Diddy for the first time. And you. You watched it all happen. You let it happen. And now you don't get to hide behind money and champagne. As Britney gave her final testimony, her voice no longer shook. It rang out. Not just with pain, but with fury. I want to say this clearly. For the record, she began, I am not crazy. I was caged. She looked at the judge, then at the jury. They made me a joke. They painted me as unstable. And when I cried out, they told the world it was part of the breakdown. But I wasn't breaking. I was screaming. She testified that after the conservatorship was enacted, she was monitored 24/7. Her calls were recorded. Her medications were controlled. Her children were taken. And her earnings sent straight to a network of corporations and managers who all had one thing in common: ties to TriStar, and through TriStar, ties to Diddy. I lost $100 million while locked in that cage. They say it was to protect me, but what they were really protecting was their system. She described how, even after the conservatorship ended, she felt unsafe speaking out. I was told Diddy had people, that if I opened my mouth, I'd disappear again. So I stayed quiet. Until now. Then came the moment no one expected. Britney pulled out a folded note, handwritten, visibly worn at the edges. She told the court it was a letter she wrote in 2009, but was never allowed to send. I wrote this to Diddy. I was 27. I was still trying to understand why someone I barely knew could have had such a big role in ruining my life. She read aloud, I hope it was worth it. Whatever they promised you, because you helped them hurt me, and I don't know if you'll ever admit it, but I know you did. I saw it in your face the night you toasted me before the VMAs. You knew I was being set up, and you smiled. The room was silent. Even Diddy didn't move. Britney folded the note and put it back in her pocket. I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing this for fame. I'm doing this because I want my kids to know the truth. I want them to know their mother wasn't a failure. She was framed. She turned back toward the judge. For 14 years, I begged for someone to listen. Now you have. Don't look away again. And with that, Britney Spears stood up, thanked the court, and walked out. Not as a pop star, but as a woman who finally told the story they tried to bury. Diddy didn't speak. He couldn't. Because for the first time, he was the one being watched. This has been an explosive testimony, and there's much more to uncover. If you found this breakdown revealing, smash that like button, share it to spread awareness, and subscribe to stay updated on the latest developments. Your support fuels this channel's mission to bring truth to light. Drop a comment with your thoughts. We read everyone. Stay vigilant, and we'll see you in the next video.